We're not going to, you might be wondering what this is, and we're going to tell you. Wait. What else can I do? After the show is through, do you have any deep questions that you would love this show to answer? Look at that, it's beautiful. Is there anything, Walter, what would you like to know? What could the show address to you? You're not on the television, Steve. You graduated now with that thing. That was wonderful. Yes, didn't we graduate you? Didn't we say that or not? We have one more class. Yes. Oh, look at you. Yeah. So, does anybody that has anything they want to know? This is your one. This is your chance. Wow. I think it's easier talking to you closely. No, that's not me. Oh, this is it. Welcome. I think I'm going to start with a cautionary tale. I need to tell this story again and again and again in order to get it. It's connected this time to buying a used car. I will tell you the connection afterwards. You might not. I am both baptized Catholic and bar mitzvah Jewish, so I think I can tell this story. This story will make all of your relationships better. Guaranteed, or your money back for the show. The Pope tells the Jews they have 3 days to leave Rome. You know, he might have had a bad day, maybe ate lasagna, or, you know, sometimes you got to blame somebody, and the Jews were there. And the Jews did not want to leave. And their senior member, a man with a gray beard and some graying hair, who had much experience in life, they went to him and they said, "You've got to help us. You're very eloquent. You're our man to go into St. Peter and convince the Pope to let us stay." So our hero takes the challenge, and he walks into St. Peter's, and the Pope sees him and knows him and says, "No way am I going to talk with that man. He's too eloquent. I'll only agree to a silent debate." And our hero nods his head. The Pope raises 3 fingers. Our hero raises 1. The Pope makes a circle around his head. Our hero points to the ground. The Pope takes out bread and wine. Our hero takes out an apple. The Pope says, "Darn it, you're too smart for us. The Jews can stay." The cardinals gather around the Pope. They don't know what went on. And the Pope said, "Well, I raised 3 fingers, letting him know that God is the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. And he raised 1, reminding me that more important than that is the unity of everything. We're all one. Humanity is one. We're one with the earth. We're one with the cosmos." And the cardinal said, "Well, what happened next?" And the Pope said, "Well, I made a circle around my head, letting them know that God is everywhere." And he pointed to the ground, letting me know that without the earth, there wouldn't be anywhere. And the cardinal said, "What happened next?" And the Pope said, "Well, I brought out bread and wine to let him know that our God forgives all sin." And he brought out an apple, reminding me that from the Garden of Eden on, when the apple was eaten, in spite of all the forgiveness, humanity is fundamentally flawed. He was too smart for me. The Jews can stay. Meanwhile, the Jews gathered around our hero and said, "We don't understand what happened." And he said, "Well, the Pope raised 3 fingers, letting us know that we had 3 days to leave, and I raised 1, letting him know that not one of us is leaving." And he said, "Well, what happened next?" And he said, "Well, the Pope made a circle around his head, saying we had to even leave the suburbs, and I pointed to the ground, letting him know that we're staying right here. And they said, and then what happened? And our hero said, I don't know. He took out his lunch, so I took out mine. That has helped me with all relationships. I used to think that, I knew what was true, and you weren't telling the truth. We just had this amazing experience, for me at least, buying a used car. I'd recommend this place. We see this car, and we like it, a Subaru Impreza, used car dealer. Well, name will go unmentioned. And it's selling for $10,900. A lot of money. And we say, but we really like it. We say, we're going to think about, we want to sleep on it. And the used car salesman said, well, how about $9,000? And we said, well, we still want to think about it. And the used car salesman asked my friend, well, what would you take it for? And she said, well, I consider $8,000. And he said, if I give it to you right now, would you take it for $8,000? And we went for a walk among the used cars and came back and said, that's such a good deal, okay. He took us into his office and said, I just talked to my manager, and he can sell it to you for $9,500. And we had shook hands, and I thought, this is wrong. And I went out and talked to one of the salesmen. He said, well, it wasn't precise. He said, if I gave it to you for $8,000, would you take it? So grammatically, he was correct. I was very angry, didn't want it. I told him I wouldn't pay $1 more than $8,000. Then I realized after many days, because we still liked the car, this was his way of negotiating. Just like the story. There was just many ways. This was his way of talking. And so I was interested in buying it again, and even paying more than $8,000. My friend comes back from Israel and tells me, in Jerusalem, when you talk to God, it's a local call. I think this is a good deal. This is better than Verizon and Sprint. I decide to go. I get to Israel, and I don't know what to do. There's volunteers that are digging in the old city of Jerusalem. It's a small, maybe a mile square city. And they're digging around the temple that was destroyed 2,000 years ago. Jews are around the world because the Romans destroyed Israel 2,000 years ago. And they're digging next to the temple. It's an archaeological dig, and I volunteer. And it's very nice to just be digging in holy ground. This isn't any ordinary dirt. I'm happy to be dusty all over. As long as I'm digging, and I'm supposedly looking for, coins and shards. And after we finish work, all the paid workers are Palestinians. I'm a little shaky. And because I don't know what to do. This is a strange land. And every day I'm a little shaky, and one of the workers, a Palestinian, a younger man, sees that. His name is Muhammad, and he says, Mikhail, let me take you to the Dome of the Rock. And I need all the help I can get and all the guidance I can get, so I go with him. And it's on the site of the destroyed Temple of the Jews 2,000 years ago. This I know. It's a beautiful golden domed mosque, way bigger than our State House. And I want to go in. And I'm talking to Muhammad, and I say, the Jews believe, because I've studied this, that when the temple that was destroyed is rebuilt, it'll be the Messianic age. Peace and justice for all. And he says, Mikhail, you need better glasses. Look, this is the new temple. We worship the same God as you. So I want to go in. And I go in, and Muhammad shows me how he prays. He puts his head to the ground, and I want to do the same. I need all the help I can get. And so I put my head to the ground like this. And it really feels wonderful. I know Islam means to surrender to God, and I feel I'm really surrendering in a new way. And as I'm doing this, I hear, get up, you've got to get up. And I look up, and there's Palestinian security guards, and they're yelling at me to get up, and I don't want to get up. I am praying. Well, Muhammad grabs me and pulls me out of the Dome of the Rock and says, they think you're making fun of our religion. You can't, I'm sorry I got you into that, but I say, well, and he says, if you want to really know what it is like to surrender, go to the Dead Sea. The salt is so intense that you cannot drown. You can just lie on the Dead Sea and surrender there. So I do what I'm told, and I get onto a bus, Palestinian bus driver, Palestinian people, and we get to the Dead Sea, and I may have gone in the wrong section, because again, all I see is Palestinians and a few foreigners. But I want to find out what it's like to surrender. I go to the edge of the Dead Sea. I've got my wallet in my book bag, and I think no one's looking. I put my wallet in my book bag, and put my book bag right on the shoreline, because I don't want to lose my wallet in a strange country. And then I lie down. And it really is very nice. And it's about 99 and 4400% surrender, because I'm still looking. Make sure my wallet's okay. It's not quite surrender, but it feels very nice. And then I come out, and I see people are covering people with mud. And I ask what's going on, and someone says, mud healing. You want to be healed? I need all the healing I could get, so I let this strange man cover me with mud. And it feels very nice. He gets to my head and he says, your eyes need to see in a new way. Let me cover them with mud. And I'm a little reluctant because my wallet and book bag are there, but I think just for one moment I can do that. And he covers them with mud, and it feels very, very nice. I open them quickly. I rinse myself off. And I'm feeling healed going to the Holy Land. And I take my book bag and look inside. There's no wallet. I'm naive American goes to a land where people are fighting with one another, and I think, I can, just be happily healed and not be, unaware that there's, a lot of animosity between these people. What's wrong with me? It's not doesn't feel good. I'm always scared of losing my wallet. And I go over to the Palestinians and I say, you can keep the money, just give me back my wallet. And they said, oh, you lost your wallet. Let's help look for it. And they go to the sand and they start digging around the sand where my book bag was. And they don't find it. They're making fun of me. That's what I think. And I think they feel a little scared, you know, because I could tell the security and the Israeli security, and they might get in trouble. And so they start to file out of the beach. And I follow them. They get into a van, a nice van. And somewhat like Tiananmen Square, I don't think I was in danger. I stood in front of it and I said, for the last time, you can keep the money. Just give me back my wallet. And they just back away and leave. I have to beg a bus driver to take me back to Jerusalem. I sit next to, across the aisle from someone. There's just one other person on this bus going back to Jerusalem. And I tell him my story. And it turns out he's come to the Holy Land. He's studying to be a priest. And he tells me this story that I'm not at all prepared to hear. He says, he was Irish, I've got a new way of understanding the story of Joseph and Mary. Could I tell you? It won't take a long time. Well, I have nothing better to do. And he says, imagine they're engaged. This is right from the gospel, but my own way of looking at it. And Joseph sees, after about 5 months of engagement, and he hasn't touched her yet, because this is the old times where they didn't touch till they got married. And he sees she's pregnant. Her belly is big. And you can imagine how this hurts him. He loves this woman, younger woman, doesn't know what to do, wants to be kind to her and tells her, we can break the engagement quietly. I don't want you to be shamed. And then very sad, he goes back to his home and tries to rest. And he has something like a vision or a dream. A messenger comes to him in his dream or vision and says, Joseph, your fiancée wasn't pregnant by any ordinary person. It was by a messenger from God. He must have felt this because he loved her so much he had to come up with some beautiful dream, vision to stay with her, and he did. And he believed it. And so instead of telling her that she was a bad woman, he went back to her and said, we can get married now because I've had this vision that you're a wonderful woman. A miraculous woman. What I thought was bad was really wonderful. Well, I'm still missing my wallet. And I'm not quite sure what to make of this. I guess he's trying to tell me it's another way of looking at this, but I can't. I'm still hurt and angry at myself for being dumb. I'm probably if that was, well, I don't even want to think about that story now. I have heard it. I thank him. We exchange addresses. He's trying to comfort me. I get back to the place I'm staying, the YMCA, right opposite the King David in Jerusalem. It's cheap. I do not have too much money left. I have to make phone calls to, my checks have to be canceled. It's not a pleasant experience. It's going to be my last night there. I don't want to even spend that much money staying at the Y, find a cheaper place. The following morning, I come to the desk, and I decide to leave a little tip. They've been taking care of my rooms. And I give the man, a Palestinian behind the desk, a small tip. And he reaches under the desk and says, "This is yours, I'm sure." And it's my wallet. And he says, "Bus driver going from Jerusalem to the Dead Sea discovered this under a seat in the bus. And he saw that you were staying at the YMCA, and he sent it back here for you." And I look inside. All my money's inside. And I tell him, I said, "You might not understand this, but I think that when you call God in Jerusalem, it really is a local call." Have you ever wanted to steal money from your family? This is a cautionary tale of what you shouldn't do. My dear brother Ron tried to steal our family inheritance. He made 3 mistakes. So if you want to steal money from your family, don't do these 3 things. His first mistake. Let me tell you, actually, before his mistake, he had a great plan. You can get it on TV. Maybe not in cable access TV, but late night TV. Late night TV, you can, for $19.95 plus $3 shipping and handling, you can get a guaranteed method to successfully steal the family inheritance. There are other things you can get late night TV. A friend of mine once, at late night TV, they guaranteed him to kill all cockroaches in your house. He was living in New York. It was a great deal. He said, "I've got to get it." They sent him in the mail 2 blocks, 2 just blocks, with instructions. Place cockroach on top of this block and squish with other block. Guaranteed. My brother had an equally good plan. The plan is you wait till your last surviving parent is a bit confused, and you have them sign in the dotted line that Ron and Ron alone, when I am declared incompetent, is solely responsible for managing my financial affairs. So Ron had my mother do this, who was getting confused. She has Parkinson's. So the plan was good, but these are the 3 mistakes. Number 1, you had to learn this buying used cars too, don't be impatient. Ron took my mother into a room with 2 doctors he had hired for it, and they asked her, Evelyn, who's president now? And she said, well, is it Nixon, Roosevelt? And they wrote, incompetent. That was mistake number 1. Mistake number 2. If you want to steal money, you got to check the financial records. I was sent from Fidelity a statement that said there's no money in my mother's trust. I call Ron, and here he made mistake number 3. I said, how come there's no money in the trust? And mistake number 3 was, he could have said, oh, there was just some administrative changing of the accounts. It'll be quite okay next month. Instead, he said, I lied to you, I deceived you, I betrayed you, and there's nothing you can do about it. Now, I love Ron. He was my younger brother, 10 years younger than I. We used to, when we were kids, he'd wake me up in the morning saying, Mike, are you awake or you are asleep? I don't want to wake you if you're sleeping. Please let me know. We were close enough, he would tell me, Mike, don't take it personally. You're dumb. You were born that way. It's not your fault. There's nothing you can do about it. And once when he was scared, and I said, I had something not quite like this, but something broken, an old socket, a light socket, and I said to him, I'm going to put this in your room, something really odd like this. I'm going to put it in your room, and no one could come into your room when this is there. And then I had a friend of mine, Jason, pretend to go into Scott's room, and when this was in there, couldn't go in, can't go in, I don't know why, I can't go in. And Scott was able, therefore, to sleep well because of that. We played lovely games. We would go to the theater and come from the opposite side of the theater, rush in the middle, and say, hi, how you doing? Haven't seen you for 10 years. How have you been? And people would look around, and we would just be happy that they were looking. And then we would walk outside and point. If it was an evening show, we just point up. And whenever anybody looked, we laughed. Because we were just pointing up to the stars that no one could see. They thought it was something else. It was just a star. We had a difficult, as brothers go. One of the great events of our life was we played a game for love, if you've ever played games for love. This was a game we played for love. We were living together on our own, and Ron had a habit of leaving paper on the stove. And our dad was a fireman. And you don't leave paper on the stove, and pizza covers on the stove. And so I had to tell him, Ron, you can't leave paper on the stove. Now, when Ron was young, my dear mother would call him out of school when he's in the first grade. He'd walk into the house, and she'd slap him and say, you left a dish in the sink. Clean it. So Ron did not like me telling him anything that was wrong in the kitchen. And I didn't want to, because I really loved living with him, but I had to tell him this. I said, Ron, you got to take the paper off the stove. And he said, this is television, we'll call it this way, he said, go love yourself. I didn't quite put it that way, but you can imagine. And I didn't know what to do because I didn't want the house to burn down. And I said, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to tell you about it until you change your habits. And he went into his room, and then he came back, and he was crying. One of the few times I've seen him cry as a man. And for the first time, he tells me, Michael, I love you a lot, but I'm leaving. I'm moving out tomorrow morning. One of the things we loved to do was to play chess together. When we played chess, we were not playing who's a better chess player. It felt like we were playing for who's a better human being. And it felt like we were hugging each other. There was with such intensity we played. And I said, Ron, before you go, let's have one last game of chess. And whatever happens, if I win, this is what I want. I'm allowed to say paper to you for the rest of your life without you cursing me out. And he said, okay, and I'll tell you what I want when I win. So we play this chess game. I feel like I'm playing for for my roommate, for the love of my brother. And so with great intensity, it feels like the best hug we've ever had in our life. It's like 4 hours we're hugging each other, even though we're not touching each other. Just the intensity of our minds together. And at the end of the 4 hours, I say, Ron, check, mate. And I don't stop there. I say, paper, 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 paper. And for the rest of my life, and he decides to stay. It was a little harder. I'm still looking for a game to play for our love now. I don't know what to do. Someone in one of my classes, when I tell them that Ron has stolen our family inheritance, says to me, it's not, she was a lawyer in my Religions for the World class, and she says, it's not fair to him or you or your mother to let him get away with it. You've got to do something about it, because I thought if he wants it that much, let him have it. But I always listen to my students, and I tried calling one lawyer, and the lawyer said, there's really nothing I can do except write a stiff letter to Ron telling him he's got financial responsibilities with this money, and I knew that wouldn't be worth the paper it was written on. Fortunately, someone who was caring for my mother, who needed 24-hour care at this time, was married to a lawyer who spent his whole life, she told me, just working on estates. He was my man. I called him. He said he'd be happy to take it as long as it didn't go to court. I didn't need to find someone else to go to court. And I said, fine. And all he did was get my mother in a room with her primary care physician and some friends. And there's something called lucid moments. And even if you're confused at times, if you're lucid, that's fine. And the doctor said, hi, how you doing? What's your name? What are your children's name? My mother was fine. And so the doctor said she was lucid. And then this experienced lawyer just had her sign 2 sentences. The first sentence is, everything that I've signed up till now is null and void, and she signs it. And the second is, I am now creating a trust with myself, Michael, and Ron. It cannot be amended unless I and one of the other sons and both of the other sons agree. And she signs this. And the lawyer says, go call Ron now and tell him he can't touch the money because it's no longer his. He can't control it anymore. And I do that. He does not want to talk to me. He says, no, I don't want to talk to you now. Leave a message on my machine. I left a message on the machine that don't touch the money. And when my mother died, and he did not come to the funeral even, but the money was shared evenly. Which is a great gift to me, to much more than I thought to have that money, but I would love another gift, to be with Ron. And I tried to forgive him. Because, I thought it was really hard for him. Not only did he do something bad, but it must have been really hard for him. He tried to do something really bad, and he was incompetent. What a combination. And I think my forgiveness is something called a spiritual bypass. I want to be good and forgiving, but there was some part of me, I was surprised, that was still really angry at him for doing it, angry at not coming to my mother's funeral. And I did not know what to do. And I remembered the man I met on the bus in Jerusalem. We had kept in touch. And I called him up. And we went for a walk by the Charles. He walked in a strange way, kind of held his hands behind his back. And I said, I really have trouble. I don't know what to do with Ron. I don't know how to forgive him. He says, well, Michael, my lad. He calls me Michael, my lad. He's just about 10 years older than me. But let me tell you the second part of the story that I told you many years ago. This time I knew him. I was waiting for it. This is my own understanding, he said, of the crucifixion. This might be. So I'm listening, and we're walking by the water, and he says, now Jesus, and Jesus' name is really Joshua, because I know you're Jewish as well as Catholic. And his name was Joshua, and he was a fighter like Joshua who fought the Battle of Jericho. And he's going into these synagogues, and he's knocking over the people that are playing games for money. He doesn't like that. And he's telling people, he says to his students, Michael, I know you have students. He says, did you visit me when I was in the hospital? Did you come to care for me when I was in prison? Did you feed me did you help me when I was homeless and feed me? And his student said, I never saw you in prison. I never saw you in the hospital. And he said, anytime anyone doesn't feed the homeless and visit the people in prison and help them and help people in the hospital, I'm there. They're not doing it to me. They're not visiting me. And if they don't do that, they're going to go to the place where there's gnashing of teeth. So Michael, your hero Joshua was a fighter. And he was angry. And when they had him on the cross, because he was making a lot of trouble, and he knew he was going to get in trouble. And he's there in pain, Michael. And he knows one part of himself wants everyone to turn the other cheek like you try to do. And that's on Mondays and Wednesdays. He says, if you hit me, I'll turn the other cheek. Tuesdays and Thursdays, he's very angry and says, you're going to the place with his gnashing of teeth and fire. And he's on the cross in great pain. And then finally, he gets it all together, his anger and his love. And he says, forgive them, because they don't know what they're doing. This isn't just a nice thing, Michael. Just try telling some of your friends if you're having trouble with them, I forgive you because you don't know what you're doing. He's able to connect his love and his anger, make them one. It was a tough love. And because he could do that, he could get into other people's hearts, because we all have love and anger, and get them together to be a tough love, and he grew in their hearts. And this is what maybe you can do with your brother Ron. Well, I thank him. And I think now I can with Ron. He won't talk to me still. But I think now maybe saying this would be like a prayer. Maybe he'll see it. I think I can have a tough love with him now. I don't think I'm going to trust him with the family finances anymore or any money whatsoever. But I think, and this is my prayer, Someone once said, what you do well artistically will come true within 6 months. So if this works within the next 6 months, I can imagine seeing him coming into even a television studio at that door, and we can do what we did when we were young. We can rush and, hi, how have you been? I haven't seen you for so long. Hi, Ron. And people might look at us as you are, and then we'll go out of the studio, and we'll do what we did.
Can you find where your mic went to? It's probably in your shirt somewhere. Oh, there's the clip. If you, the mic's probably in your shirt. Yeah. Okay, where'd that clip go?
There it is. Accidents are good. These are accidents. I invited a friend of mine for dinner, and we were still shopping for used cars, and I was talking to a used car salesman on the phone and warming up the oven for fish. And I did something that no one has ever heard of, that I've talked to about it. I had a spatula, a plastic spatula this is a new way to create art, a plastic spatula in the oven. And I smelled it after a while, because I'm a sensitive person. And this was a black spatula, and this is the part that just melted on the broiler pan, the top of the broiler pan. And I thought, after wondering if I had ruined my oven, because this is poisonous, I said, wow, this is interesting. It might be worth it. Actually, I'm jumping ahead of my story. I didn't actually know that then. But my friend, we'll call her Lorraine, was drinking out of my one remaining wine glass and dropped it. The wine spilled, and then she dropped it and it fell. And then we looked. She's into drama and art. She's quite an extremely artistic person. And this looked beautiful. A little scary, like some of our lives, but beautiful. And that got me to look at this and say, oh my, this is beautiful too. And we had been discussing drama, because I was going to be doing this show. And we came to the conclusion that when we're cracked open, that the stuff that comes out when we're cracked open, I'm not sure I've been cracked open yet, but we might have the time for the audience to do that. When you're cracked open, all kinds of beautiful things come out. I had one of my students say that when she makes love with her husband, she feels like a hard-boiled egg that's rolled on the table. You know, you used to hard-boiled eggs like that. You can crack them open. And she said she's cracked open when they make love, and then he holds her for a long time. And she comes back to herself again, and she says, always in a different pattern. And she tells the class, if you're the same after you make love as before, don't waste your time. So hopefully these stories will help all of us, if we're not wasting our time, be a little different than we were before we started. I'm going to tell my last story for the evening. And this once was true, just a little while ago. I hope because of the story it isn't true anymore. If you're the same after you tell a story as before, you're wasting your time. This story is called Relationships Are Hard, Especially with Other People. I'm going to write a book. 4,317 steps to a better you. Unfortunately, I don't know the first step. I'd love the last step to be no more steps. Enough of the step stuff, yes? Let's dance instead of I'm afraid the last step is going to be, now you are ready for the first step. My name is Michael Koran. I do not have a middle name. My sweetheart gave me one, hers. Ann. She calls me Mikey Ann. This does not conjure up images of Arnold Schwarzenegger. I begged her, I said, sweetheart, I'd like another middle name, please. She says, you've got to keep the A. She calls me M-A-K, Mac. On my good days, she calls me Big Mac. I have a television show that sometimes she's on. She asks me, how would you describe your relationships in the past? I say succinctly, ow! She says, well, maybe I didn't phrase the question properly. Love for you has been, again, very succinctly, I say, she says, nice weather we're having, isn't it? When I tell her that I love you, she says, what does that mean? This is Cambridge, after all. I say it means that I love and cherish and adore you now. She says, that's very nice, but it's not enough. I want you to find some place in your heart, don't get scared, it doesn't have to be big, that loves me all the time. To help me, she knows I'm a teacher and I like to talk, she goes to Pills Hardware and gets duct tape and tapes my hand to my heart to remind me that I've got one and let me know where it is. Tells me the only way I can communicate is with sign language, because words get in the way. You might have scared. Yes, words, words, words. Don't talk of love. Show me. So this is the sign language for I. This is the I, love, and then you. She says, when you get it, let me know. And she tapes my mouth shut. I got it. Who guessed? There's a little part in my heart that loves her all the time. Live and learn. Love brings up everything but love. Hate, jealousy, last night's supper, all these feelings come out. It brings up many personalities in me. So as I started to love, I discovered all these new personalities roaming around inside. I decided I was going to write another book, multi-personalities, and what they can do for you and you and you and you and you and you. The first personality my sweetheart meets, she calls Mr. Nice. Hello. Mr. Nice had read, I'm okay, you're okay. He wanted to write a sequel. I'm okay, if you're okay, if that's okay. What's really important to me, that you're okay. When a previous lover threw a grilled cheese sandwich at Mr. Nice's head saying, you don't fight back. I can't stand it. You don't fight back. Mr. Nice picks up the grilled cheese, dusts it off, cuts it in quarters, and says, you can still eat it now. That was our last supper. Mr. Nice imitates humanity. He figures if earthlings could love, so can he. Hello. Good to meet you. I love you. Keep in touch. After about 6 months of Mr. Nice, my sweetheart thinks there must be somebody else there. She knocks. Ouch. Anybody home? Out pops Put Down Man. Put Down Man had read I'm okay, you're okay, and had written a new one called I'm okay, you're a noodle. Put Down Man puts people down for being people. He puts women down for being women. Don't take it personally. You were born that way. It's not your fault. There's nothing you can do about it. Put Down Man and Mr. Nice fight with one another. Two parts of my personality. Put Down Man says, you're a scaredy cat. Mr. Nice says, please, please, please don't hit me. Mr. Nice, Put Down Man says, what are you scared of? Mr. Nice says, I'm scared of being petrified. Out of this war zone crawls Mr. Needy. Mr. Needy is written, pretty, 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 please tell me I'm okay. If you look carefully at Mr. Needy, you'll see Vampire Man. When Mr. Needy invites you for a drink, you're the drink. Well, these personalities come out and I ask my sweetheart, is there a head-to-toe condom for people who feel like they're totally pricks? And she says, don't put yourself down. You know, all those personalities, they're you. Let them out. Let them party. And so I do. Mr. Nice and Mr. Needy hit it off. Put Down Man and Vampire Man have a good time. They were having a great time. Pretty soon I don't know me from me. When I get myself together, my sweetheart says, well, now that you're integrating and getting yourself together, let me tell you that in Sanskrit, the word for penis is lingam. It means wand of light. You're no longer a prick. You're a wand of light. I'm a dick with meaning. But I don't know what that means. My sweetheart says, good. Now you're ready for the first step. I'm just going to say goodbye with a song I use on my television show. Thank you all for coming. May the good Lord bless and keep you, whether near or far away. May you find that long-awaited golden day today. May your troubles all be small ones, and your fortunes 10 times 10. May the good Lord bless and keep you till we meet again. Thank you so much for coming. I wouldn't have been able to do it without you. Oh, it was so nice to see your laughing, smiling faces. What a gift. Thank you. Oh, my. Well, we did it.